Hey now, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. It's Independence Day as Americans celebrate the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And what's more patriotic than watching American wrestlers fighting foreign menaces while listening to country music? Such was the case on Saturday, July 6, 1985, when Jim Crockett Promotions held its Great American Bash Supercard. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at the event, as well as what happened behind the scenes, including the embarrassing show that preceded it, the TV announcer who turned special referee, the country music artist who performed at the show, the wrestler who walked out of the company with a title belt after the show, and how the show was so successful it's been picked up by 2 different wrestling promotions. And before you set off any fireworks, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos. As seen in our video, The Story of Starrcade, holidays were a big time for promoters to book special wrestling cards to entertain fans who had free time and hopefully extra money to enjoy some action in the squared circle. Independence Day was no exception, as promoters booked big events on or around the 4th of July, including Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, aka Jim Crockett Promotions. In 1985, Jim Crockett Promotions and the World Wrestling Federation were the top 2 promotions in the United States, and while other promotions were still around, they were slowly losing the war with the WWF. JCP and Booker Dusty Rhodes were determined not to lose, and with a deep roster, Dusty sought to book supercards to capitalize both on wrestling's popularity and the market of fans looking for something different from the WWF product. The success of 1984's Starrcade must have made promoter Jim Crockett Jr. and his booker Dusty Rhodes confident that the fans were willing to support stadium supercards. However, while JCP was enjoying popularity, success should never be taken for granted, something the promotion found out on May 27, 1985 when it held a show at Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium. The card has long been ridiculed. In 1985, Three Rivers Stadium had a seating capacity, not counting seats on the artificial turf, was 58,429. Looking at the Three Rivers card, it's easy to understand why it flopped faster than New Coke. First, JCP promoted the show outside of its traditional marketplace. Second, the card was an average show with a lackluster lineup of matches. Things would be different on July 6. At least Jim Crockett Jr. and Dusty Rhodes hoped so. This was a stadium show featuring some of the hottest programs in JCP and appearances from select wrestlers outside the promotion, and it would take place in the promotion's heartland, Charlotte, North Carolina. This supercard was anchored by several hot feuds and featured wrestlers from other promotions such as the American Wrestling Association World Tag Team Champions, the Road Warriors, and one of wrestling's hottest heels at the time, Kamala. Like any stadium show, it was risky, but with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship defense by Ric Flair against the hated heel Nikita Koloff, a steel cage match between NWA television champion Tully Blanchard and Dusty Rhodes, and a strong undercard, this was a chance for JCP to make a statement. There are plenty of reasons for fans to want to see the show. Let's look at the show's top 2 matches, beginning with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship match between Nature Boy Ric Flair and rookie wrestler Nikita Koloff. Just a year earlier, veteran heel Ivan Koloff had introduced the wrestling world to his kayfabe nephew Nikita. Nikita was a monster heel who looked like he could rip wrestlers' heads from their bodies. Indeed, he often came close when he used his finisher, the Russian sickle, a clothesline that became his signature move. Although Nikita was still green, JCP protected him with short squash matches as he honed his skills. By 1985, Nikita was one half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions alongside Uncle Ivan, actually 1/3, as the Koloffs defended the belts under the Freebird rule with Crusher Khrushchev, an American wrestler who turned his back on the United States and embraced communism. Nikita and Ivan began stalking NWA World Champion Ric Flair. This led to an incident where announcer David Crockett defended Flair from the Koloffs' comments that Flair was soft, reminding everyone how Flair not only survived a plane accident, but returned from a broken back. Tired of Crockett's badgering, Nikita clotheslined Crockett. Crockett, known for his spirited defense of babyfaces, although some critics labeled him as more of a cheerleader than an announcer, was appointed as special referee for the match. This unusual provision was just one of the many flourishes used to enhance the card. Next up was the main event, a steel cage match between NWA World Television Champion Tully Blanchard and Dusty Rhodes. This was a heated feud, both literally and metaphorically speaking, as Blanchard had charbroiled the American Dream by throwing a fireball into his face. Although Dusty avoided serious injury, the heinous act likely would have led to serious consequences, such as a heavy fine or possible suspension. However, Dusty begged NWA officials to let him pursue his own justice, asking for a steel cage match against Blanchard. Blanchard decided to strike again, knocking Dusty out with a loaded elbow pad. Blanchard boasted he would never lose his title until he decided to relinquish it. However, there was more than Blanchard's title at stake. Tully had put up the services of his bodyguard, Baby Doll, for 30 days should Dusty somehow manage to win. The supercard featured 8 matches with no enhancement talent on the show. Several titles were defended besides the ones mentioned, including the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ole and Arn Anderson, defending the National Tag Team Championship against Buzz Sawyer and Dick Slater. Magnum TA put his United States Championship on the line against Kamala, and the Russians, Crusher Khrushchev and Ivan Koloff, defended the NWA World Tag Team Championship against AWA World Tag Team Champions, the Road Warriors. The show began with a match between Cowboy Ron Bass and Buddy Landel. In other action, Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant defeated wrestler-turned-manager Paul Jones in a dog collar match. This was yet the latest installment in Valiant and Jones's seemingly endless feud. There was also a 6-man tag match between Manny Fernandez, Sam Houston, and Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion Buzz Tyler, and the trio of superstar Billy Graham, Conga the Barbarian, and Abdullah the Butcher. Tyler would walk out on JCP not long after the bash, taking the Mid-Atlantic Championship belt with him, forcing the promotion to create a new title belt. Rumor has it that Tyler was upset over a payday and got to stop it. JCP's use of wrestlers from other promotions such as Kamala and the Road Warriors was evidence of the pseudo-alliance trying to combat the WWF's expansion. The Road Warriors were enjoying national prominence, and their match against the Russians was a dream match that unsurprisingly ended in a double disqualification. Magnum TA's match against Kamala ended with the US champion retaining by disqualification, but it featured an awesome spot where Magnum delivered a belly-to-belly suplex to Kamala, a move that would be played on video many times over. The NWA World Championship match began in style as Ric Flair arrived at the stadium in a helicopter. Flair successfully defended his title against Nikita Koloff, throwing back the Russian Nightmare's challenge for the time being. The two would meet again many times over the summer, including the infamous cage match that marked the beginning of the Four Horsemen. The Russians took out their frustration both on Flair and special referee David Crockett in a post-match beatdown, and who could blame them as Crockett had made a fast count on Koloff. The unsanctioned steel cage match saw Dusty defeat Tully, winning the World Television Championship and Baby Doll services after pile-driving Blanchard for the 1-2-3. Baby Doll would eventually turn babyface, apparently overcome by Dusty's incredible charisma. The event was held at Charlotte's American Legion Memorial Stadium. The show included a 1-hour musical performance by country singer David Allan Coe. According to the website The History of the WWE, NWA World Champion Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Jimmy Valiant, and NWA US Champion Magnum TA briefly joined Coe on stage, with Valiant helping out on vocals. Fans who didn't attend the bash were able to watch highlights on a VHS tape produced by Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. The show was hosted by iconic wrestling announcer Gordon Soley and Pro Wrestling Illustrated's own Bill Apter. Pro Wrestling Illustrated presents Ringmasters: The Great American Bash '85 is still available through online auctions. Unfortunately, the WWE has not released the entire show on its streaming service, but clips can be found on YouTube. The Great American Bash proved a smash success, with 27,000 fans attending the event. The show's success led to it becoming an annual tradition in JCP, just like Starrcade. Crockett and Rhodes apparently felt so confident with the Great American Bash's potential that they turned it into a 13-city tour the following year. Overall, the Bash proved a success in 1986, but there were some failures in some markets, and the idea of pairing country music performances with wrestling did not always work in certain locations. Despite some missteps, the Great American Bash came back stronger than ever in 1987, anchored by Dusty Rhodes' creation, War Games. War Games would become a staple in JCP and its successor, World Championship Wrestling. The Great American Bash eventually became a pay-per-view and continued after Ted Turner bought out Jim Crockett Promotions. Critics rightfully have pointed out Dusty's bad habit of stretching out feuds ad nauseum, his infamous Dusty finish, and his tendency to book himself on top. Nonetheless, the Great American Bash's success is further evidence of Dusty Rhodes' creativity and vision. As Tim Hornbaker discusses in his work, The Death of the Territories, Dusty's booking was not without flaws, but, truth be known, Rhodes' talent as a booker had taken JCP out of its safe Mid-Atlantic locale and given the company placement on the national stage. Indeed, Dusty's contributions live on to this day, whether it's the Great American Bash, War Games, or the many careers he helped develop during his time in the WWE's developmental system. Interestingly, the Bash has been run by 3 separate promotions: Jim Crockett Promotions, World Championship Wrestling, and the WWE, a situation that is made for some very different types of shows, and not always to everyone's liking, particularly for fans of the JCP era. The WWE's adoption of the Great American Bash for several pay-per-views in the early 21st century suggests that WWE believed the show's name alone might bring in lapsed WCW fans. While those bashes were mostly mediocre shows, the WWE's developmental brand NXT has adopted the name, a recognition of what it can still be. What do you think of the Great American Bash? What are your favorite memories of the show? Share your thoughts in the comments section and let us know if there's any videos you'd like wrestling's greatest moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and spread the good news about wrestling's greatest moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.